Greetings, fellow gorehounds, and welcome back to a Blood Splattered vlog. I'm the Horror Guru.
I'm the Invisible Woman.
And Lizzie Lemondrop is the Invisible Woman, and today we are talking about, if you can't already tell, The Invisible Man, the latest Universal reboot, remake, whatever you want to call it, of the Invisible Man property. And, I gotta say, I was looking forward to this movie going into it because the trailer looked fucking amazing, and I'm a huge fan of Leigh Whannell, the director of this movie, who also directed Upgrade and wrote a whole bunch of James Wan movies, most of which I think are fantastic.
You said he wrote Saw, right?
Yep, he wrote Saw. He did.
That actually doesn't, the more I've been thinking about it since you told me that actually makes a lot of sense.
It does. It does.
I'm comparing with the... I'll explain later.
Yes. There's you could trace some things in this movie to some of other Leigh Whannell movies.
Yeah. And
I apologize if I'm mispronouncing his name. I just realized when we sat down to record that I've never actually heard it spoken, so I'm assuming it's Leigh Whannell.
Leigh.
All I know is that he's Australian, he's awesome, and he's written a bunch of movies I love and directed two that I fucking love. Because spoilers, I love this movie.
It's a great movie.
So what are your spoiler-free thoughts?
Real quick, once again, like our last vlog together, this is gaslighting the movie.
Yes. Hardcore. But that we kind of knew going in based on the trailer,
because it's the Invisible Man. I don't know, like, that's...
That was what really sold me on this movie, was because the Invisible Man's always been about when a person no longer has to be held accountable for their actions, how would they behave? And in the Invisible Man's case, the original Invisible Man, he was just a complete and utter unrepentant asshole the entire time. This movie decides to take that concept and adapt it into a toxic relationship.
I liked how it's very much still... Here's the thing, it's completely different from any other version of the Invisible Man. It's completely
Big
different
time.
from the book, from the Universal Monster movie.
It's even different than Hollow Man. Which is probably the movie it's most like, but it's still different.
But I still felt that the movie took it's a very completely new story, but it is very much reminiscent of the themes of this story.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it took the idea of a very you have no consequences for your actions, and this is now what you get to do. Like, it really took that, and it was like, how does that apply to, like, the things we're talking about now in our society?
Oh, yeah.
What are the horrible things that men do? We know men do now when they know they're not going to get it, when they know they're going to get away with it.
Oh, yeah, we see it all the time online. Yeah. Not even just men, like, women do it too online. If you haven't encountered a female troll, you haven't spent much time online, they exist. But yeah, like, this movie hyper-focuses on the toxic boyfriend, the abusive, controlling boyfriend.
They never made clear if he was her boyfriend or her husband.
I got the impression that it was boyfriend, but she wanted to get out before it was husband.
They never actually said one way or the other. I assumed husband because they were living together and talking about a baby.
Yeah.
But then there's a point in the movie where we find out they've only been together for like 3 years, and I'm like, okay.
I mean, it's still possible for them to get married in that time, especially given how they establish him as incredibly controlling.
Yes, it's just...
But it's not. I got the impression they hadn't quite gone there yet. But that's part of the reason why she wants out of that relationship.
I gotta leave now.
That's one thing I do want to bring up, is that if you saw the trailer for this movie, because when I first saw the trailer for this movie, I was sold on it 100%, but I also had in the back of my mind this feeling like the trailer gave away too much. Here's the thing. It didn't. This movie operates from the get-go of you knowing the Invisible Man is the Invisible Man.
The movie doesn't play... Here's the thing. I don't want to say the movie doesn't play any mind games with you, because it does, but the movie at no point tries to make you question whether or not the Invisible Man is there. Like, they said it from the get-go, no, he's here, there is an invisible man stalking our main character.
And on top of that, there's a lot of twists and turns that aren't in the trailer, and there are also moments in the trailer that are done differently in the final movie.
Yeah, they clearly used alternate takes in the trailers than they used in the movie. And honestly, I think that was a really effective way of marketing the movie, because here's the thing, we're not saying the marketing was inaccurate for the movie in any way.
No,
they sold you the movie they're giving you.
Exactly.
It's just that they by showing you alternate takes, it meant that you were still able to be surprised by what happened in the scenes they showed you in the trailer.
And even the stuff that's in the trailer that you know is gonna go down because you saw the trailer,
Still works.
It still works. It's the execution. It's the tension involved. It's how in the head of the main character the movie gets you to the point where you're feeling her anxiety and her paranoia about everything.
It does. The movie does it does a very, very good job of, even before we know for absolute certain that the Invisible Man is there, which again, is confirmed to you very quickly.
Yeah.
But before we even know that, her behavior, it's very, very easy to just feel her anxiety and her, like her PTSD from being in this hyper-controlling abusive relationship where it's just like every, like, pin drop makes you jump because you can't trust what's around you.
And at times, it's like a classic Hitchcockian suspense thriller where you have this poor girl who's being terrorized by this invisible entity that no one believes exists. No one believes is there because, if you've seen the trailer, he's supposed to be dead.
Can I real quick?
Go ahead.
Can I just kind of say what a great take that is on the tendency of horror movies to have these female leads that I'm being haunted and no one believes them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like the crux of the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Is like, yeah, no one believes her.
Exactly. And what I also like about that is that the movie also, like, everything that happens in the movie literally happens, but the movie as a whole, in the same way that The Babadook was a metaphor about grief and, like, dealing with the death of a loved one, this movie is all about how the abuse that you sustain in a relationship haunts you afterwards. It doesn't just go away when you're out of the relationship. It takes time, and it will continue to tug at your anxieties and tug at your insecurities long after the relationship is over. And this movie takes that literally.
Well, it's kind of like being in an abusive relationship or any other kind of huge life-changing trauma. You can get away from it, but you're never going to be
there.
It's always going to be there. Like, you're never going to be the person you were before. It has fundamentally changed you, and you're always going to be haunted by it.
Absolutely. And I thought this movie handled that perfectly. Like, there's small nitpicks you can make with the movie, but none of those nitpicks are, like, real problems. They're the kind of things where you're like, you think back and go like, okay, well, I'm not sure that person will be able to do that with that injury, but, like, overall the movie works, so it doesn't matter.
It's the kind of suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
That you're supposed to do, where it's just like, I don't need to think about that. It doesn't matter that much.
And you're so into the movie when it's happening, and you're so invested in the characters that overall those little nitpicks don't weigh the movie down. It's mostly you think about it afterwards. But the movie as a whole, the whole concept, that works. That's
absolutely. I also liked the way the movie is not just using an abusive relationship as set dressing. Like, what the Invisible Man is doing throughout the film is recreating the pattern of an abusive relationship, which is, like, gaslighting her, making her question her own reality, isolating her from her support network. Even
physically abusing her at times. Even that.
And then convincing the people around her that she's not
that she's
being
crazy,
abused.
That she's making it up.
Yeah, which is what abusers do. It's how you fall into it. So
also isolating her from the people around her by convincing them
that she's dangerous.
That she's the problem. Yeah.
So, like, it's a movie that really, really successfully, like, it's not just, oh well, it's an abusive relationship and that's the impetus for the plot. It's like, no, that's what the movie is about on its, like, fundamental level, that the movie is a metaphor for an abusive relationship while also literally being an abusive relationship.
And on top of all that, it is a fucking suspenseful, intense thriller horror movie that, like, has you on the edge of your goddamn seat the entire time. Like, there was literally moments where I realized I was forgetting to breathe.
I was, like, cutting off your circulation at points. The movie does such a great job at being so tense, and you are constantly looking for him when you can't see him because it's disorienting and frightening that you don't know where he is.
And that's another thing I really liked about this movie, was that a lot of the Invisible Man effects are very simple, basic, practical effects up until you get to the end, and then you get some more, like, digital stuff and some more, green suit effects.
Yeah.
But, like, for the most part, for most of the movie, it's very practical stuff, you know? It's like pulling a knife on a string, you know? It's like... And it's done so subtly. And I was sitting there when I was watching the movie, and I was watching all that, and I was just going like, you know, when you guys were trying to do your whole, like, Universal Monsters universe?
The dark universe.
If you had just done movies like this, simple, low-budget movies that revamp the characters into a new world, that might have worked instead of trying to make these bombastic action horror movies.
It's way more... Here's the thing. The recreations of Universal Monsters are good when they're the ones being made by people who have an idea to do it, and not when they're being made by the studio mandated of, we need a competitor for the MCU.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, the good remake of The Mummy from 20 years ago was made because people were like, let's make a sort of Indiana Jones light action adventure comedy, and it was really fun.
It was a really dumb movie, but it was a really fun movie.
We all love that movie. I don't want to hear no,
I love that movie.
No dissension in the comments.
I love the shit out of the movie. That movie's just dumb as hell.
And then I considered this is the Guillermo del Toro's The Shape of Water. It's also this massive reimagining of a Universal monster movie, but it's being...
Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah. But again, it was a movie made by someone who had a passion and a vision for how we can reimagine this story and this character.
And that's not a stretch, by the way. He kind of envisioned The Shape of Water as what he would do if he did a sequel to The Creature from the Black Lagoon. He has said this on the record. So while it's not officially one, it's kind of like Jack Nicholson's Wolf or Hollow Man. They're not specifically the Universal versions of the horror monsters, but they're clearly those monsters.
No, but that's clearly what they're...
alluding to
be. So, like, that, but this is, this is how you retell these stories, is you need to do it because somebody has a version of the story they want to tell, not because, we own the property, so let's...
And that's as far as I'm aware, that's how this movie came about. I remember, because I follow Leigh Whannell on Twitter, and I remember him saying that he actually went to Blumhouse to pitch his version of Invisible Man, like, 5 years ago. And, like, I'm so happy to see the movie actually came to be because, like, his pitch was fucking great. And the movie that came as a result of that is fucking great. And it's definitely a contender for one of the best horror movies of this year. And I've seen some good ones this year. We saw The Lodge, which was fantastic. I saw The Color Out of Space, which was fantastic. This movie's up there with those two as one of the best. This one is one of the more straightforward Hollywood... not big budget, but straightforward, like, studio crowd pleaser. It's more of a studio crowd pleaser than those two, which were, way more art house pictures. But this so far, of the studio crowd pleasers, this is the best one I've seen so far.
This is my favorite horror movie I've seen so far this year.
There's some movies coming up that
I liked it more than The Lodge, but that's because this is more my speed of horror movie than The Lodge. I wouldn't call it better than The Lodge. I just think it's more my kind of movie.
Yeah, this is way more of a studio thriller, whereas The Lodge is way more of an art house indie horror film. So,
but I also expect. We still have the Candyman remake and Antebellum and Promising Young Woman, so there's a lot of competitors for my favorite horror movie this year.
And if you were wondering on my thoughts on the Candyman trailer, I think the movie looks fucking great, and I can't wait for it. But we'll see when that movie comes out, and I eventually do my vlog on it, whether or not it lives up to my hopes and expectations.
Whether or not I'm in it or Jack will be in it is yet to be seen.
And one thing I do want to say is that I like that the Candyman remake looks like it's going Nightmare on Elm Street 2 with it. And I kind of hope that means that they're going to amplify the homoerotic elements of Clive Barker's work. Because that would be amazing to see. But that's neither here nor there. So now that we're talking about Candyman, we should probably move on to the spoilers since there's more to talk about there.
If you want my thoughts on the Candyman trailer, I did a big-ass thread about it on Twitter, so you can go look at that.
So, with all that said, let us move on to the spoilers. Alrighty then. So, you already know going into this movie that this movie is about a toxic relationship in which the girl gets out of the relationship. The guy then kills himself, but he's a rich fuck, so he plans this whole elaborate scheme to get back at her in which she inherits his fortune, but then he starts taunting her as the Invisible Man because he created this suit which makes him invisible, which is the new addition to this compared to the...
instead of doing the, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, oh, what tragedy has befallen me, I've become the victim of my own experiment thing, because the thing about that is, even though the Invisible Man in the original version is in fact a total bastard, that does that factor that he can't be seen, he can't fix his own issue.
Gives him a little bit of empathy.
It does. It gives him a sense of sympathy, and this one, because they went, magic convenient science invention suit, and the fact that our main character is in fact able, this is not some sort of tragedy upon him, it is a thing that he made and he can put on and take off.
Very little empathy for him.
No empathy for him at all. It's just like, okay,
well, it's because he's a narcissist. He's a controlling narcissist from the get-go, and they let you know right away that he is dangerous and that she is not making any of this up when she has to perform this elaborate escape from his house at the beginning of the movie, in which she has to tiptoe around. She actually drugged him so that he wouldn't get up. And then, like, when she finds a car to get away, he runs up and smashes the window and starts to choke her to death. And you're just like, whoa, okay, he is just a fucking abusive asshole when no one else is around. Just hardcore. God, I'm not sure. We talked about the themes and stuff like that. What can we talk about that the movie did really well that we haven't talked about yet? That's spoilery.
The twists.
Ooh, yes.
Twists and turns.
Now, if you saw the trailer, you might have assumed the fact that it's an invisible man and not a ghost haunting her was the twist. No. Not in the slightest. The Invisible Man thing is confirmed pretty early on.
Yeah, like we said, the movie doesn't spend any time trying to make you think she's going crazy. Because the first time we canonically see the Invisible Man do something, she is not in the room.
Yep.
It is for the audience to see, no, there's actually a person here.
Where the twists come involved is that there's a point in the movie where you start questioning whether he's actually doing it or if it's his brother who's doing it in his stead.
Well, because here's the thing. There's a point in the movie where it's, first of all, Lawyer Man that you see in the trailer is his brother. And right away, I'm listening to the brother talk, and I'm listening to him make snide comments about his brother's abuse victim being a gold digger, and I'm just like, okay, you're fucking involved somehow.
And then they try to throw a curveball at you, because when he talks about like my brother was just as controlling to me growing up as he was to you.
I didn't buy it.
I bought it for a moment.
I did not.
I bought it for a moment.
I didn't buy it for a second. Not for 1 second. I did not buy it. And then there's a point later in the movie where it's revealed that there's two suits. So here's the thing. I reached a point in the movie where my brain was full of theories. I was like, okay, brother's definitely involved. But I had some theory. One theory was, okay, so abusive husband. Okay, husband's name is Adrian.
Yep.
I want to start calling him by his name.
So we can start calling him Adrian, yeah.
But yeah, so there's pictures of Adrian with like his wrist slit open, and so it's like, oh, well, and so my take was, I had one theory, which was that, oh no, he like put a suit on the brother and made the brother look like him, and he killed his brother, and now he's using the suit, because all we know is that it's a magic suit that can make him invisible.
Well, the science fiction element of the story is that he has this suit that can reflect light and make him invisible, but we don't know if he can do other things. So there's this question whether or not he can make himself look like someone else.
That's what I was thinking for a while. I was like, maybe. But then there's also a point where it's really apparent to me, because when we know that there's two suits, I'm like, they're both in on it.
Yeah, and
they're both doing it.
And eventually we get the Scream twist where it's two invisible men.
Invisible men. Well, and there's a brief period where the movie wants you to think that it was just the brother the whole time. I also never believed.
Fuck that. No,
I didn't believe that.
At that point, I was on that point. I was on Elisabeth Moss's side, in which she was just. Which, by the way, Elisabeth Moss is fucking amazing in this movie. Like, she so perfectly captures the feeling of paranoia and anxiety that an abuse victim would have, and the film does a great job of putting you in her head so much.
The film is amazing at really, really, really making you feel everything that she's afraid of. And I need to say, poor Elisabeth Moss is just kind of typecast as woman who is victim of the patriarchy, because her other two big roles that you're going to know her from, as obviously from Handmaid's Tale, where she plays June, or Offred, whichever you know her as on Handmaid's Tale, and also as the secretary, I think it was on Mad Men, where she's...
Oh, that's right! That's right!
So this is...
Oh, shit! You know what? I sat there the entire movie going like, I know I've seen her in something other than Handmaid's Tale. What was it?
Mad Men.
Mad Men. Holy shit.
So poor Elizabeth, I think she was the secretary. I didn't watch a lot of Mad Men. But, like, so poor Elizabeth...
Her whole arc in Mad Men is essentially she becomes a secretary and then tries to work her way up to become like one of the powerful women, but she has to overcome the patriarchy as well as her own internal shit.
But so this is what Elisabeth Moss does, is she plays victims.
Yep.
Symbolic victims of the patriarchy.
She does a great job in this movie.
She's really good at it.
She is amazing in this movie. Like, so yeah, it has that Scream twist where both the brothers were in on it the whole time, and there was two invisible men messing with her at any given time, which allowed them to do a lot more things than he could do when he was just there in person.
There was one good man in this movie.
Oh my god.
There was one man who was not an asshole.
My man and my favorite character, her cop best friend.
James.
Yeah, he is great.
And his teenage daughter.
Oh my, I love at the beginning, one of the subtle things this movie does at the beginning of the movie that I think is so brilliant is just how invested it gets you in James, his daughter, and in Elisabeth Moss and her sister at the beginning of this movie by seeing their dynamic before Adrian gets involved and starts turning them against each other.
Well, here's the thing. Honestly, the most emotionally difficult part for me was right after that scene where she gets her... after the will reading, when she believes that he's dead briefly, and you see, like, you can see it. You can see this.
The happiness she could have.
She could be happy.
If he was actually dead.
And your heart just breaks because we've got a whole 2 hours of the movie left.
Oh, yeah.
So you know
it's called The Invisible Man. We've seen the trailer. We know this goes south.
And I'm just looking at it and I'm just like, no.
But how happy and how, like, good their dynamic is and how much of a good friend... like he is, and you're just, and that makes it even more tense throughout the movie because when the daughter and when the sister and when the cop are James, when they are in trouble, like you are like just as worried for them as you are for Elisabeth Moss. Like,
well, like I said, the Invisible Man is targeting her friends, not just for horror movie body count, but because like I said before, it's just denying her from, isolating her from her support system, both by gaslighting her and the people around her into thinking that she hates them and that she's crazy, and then killing them. Because she wants... James does not die. Don't worry about that.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. The black man lives.
Black man lives.
And so does the dog, by the way. There was a moment where they introduced the dog where I was just like, no,
don't kill the dog.
Don't kill the dog. Dog lives. Don't worry about that.
Dog lives. Boomer shall live. But it's a very, very intense where you are more afraid for the people around her than you are for her.
And some of the most heartbreaking moments in the movie are the moments in which her friends and her family want to believe her, but she sounds crazy.
Because she does. You can't blame them for not believing her.
And those are heartbreaking moments because A, you feel her anxiety of not being believed, but you also feel their anxiety of like, I want to believe you and help you, but... You're telling me that a dead man's alive and invisible. Like,
to be honest, in a way that kind of goes to the metaphor for an abusive relationship when people who love you want to help you, but they are powerless to do anything.
Yeah, they can't.
And it's really, really one of the other most heartbreaking parts of the movie is when Adrian has sabotaged her life before he's actually physically hurt anybody. Yeah. And so you have the people around her, like her sister saying, don't talk to me, because she, and the friend's daughter, like, not wanting to be around her and being scared of her, and it's this very, like, just so heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking because she does not deserve this to be happening to her. Yep. But you can't blame any of the people around her for being like, well,
Absolutely.
Because part of the sad part is that she's a sister and she's a friend, but she's not a wife, she's not a daughter. Yep. So she's not a partner. Like, she is not the person any of these people can put first. And it's really, really sad.
And there's a point in which the cop has to choose his daughter over her because the daughter's in danger, and that's a really heartbreaking scene. Especially when in his mind it looks like she's become dangerous. So, like, he has to keep her daughter away from her because there's a point in the movie in which everyone thinks that everything the Invisible Man is doing, she is doing. Man, Well, that leads me into the second big twist of the movie, which, again, the trailer did not give away the whole movie. And that's that you operate through most of the movie assuming that he is completely doing this 100% solely because she left him and he wanted to get back at her and he's a controlling asshole. And that's all true. But it turns out about towards the end of the movie, like right when we enter the third act, we find out there's a second reason he's doing all this.
She's pregos.
She's pregos and she didn't know it and he kept it from her. In fact, there's a point in which we find out that a doctor that recently checked her blood didn't give her the information that she was pregnant, most likely, alluded to because of him. That he paid people off. Well,
because she does not know... Here's the thing. It is a plot point made clear earlier in the movie that part of the reason she finally decided to leave him was because he was trying to get pregnant, and she knew that if that happened, she was never going to leave.
Yeah, he was trying to get pregnant, but she couldn't get away from him because he was so controlling. Like this guy's so controlling that he has locks on every door and alarms, so if she tries to leave, he will fucking catch her. He's that level of fucking abusive. And on top of that, she's like, okay, well, if I have this baby, I'm never going to get away from him because now we're going to always be linked because of this kid. So she starts taking birth control pills so that they can't get pregnant. He, it turns out, we find out later, replaced those birth control pills with placebos. So she got pregnant without realizing it.
I kind of, to be fair, I called the switching up the birth control pills, I kind of called too. Mm-hmm. I was like, I feel like he would know.
I like it because you have this scene in which she faints, and you're first led to believe it's because of the diazepam that he gave her while she was sleeping. But it turns out there's another reason why she fainted.
She's pregnant.
She's pregnant, and she didn't realize it, and she's been having anxiety attacks left and right. And there's so many. This is one of those great horror thrillers where everything just builds onto each other and it just adds to the tension because now there's a fucking pregnancy involved in this. She has a kid.
So my two favorite scenes in the movie.
Yeah.
Is the shower scene.
Oh yeah.
Where she knows that she's pregnant and she also knows she's locked in a psych ward. And she knows that she's pregnant. And she knows Adrian is in that. She can't see him, but she knows he is in this room and he's watching me.
Yep.
So she manages to steal a pen. And she basically says, you're not going to get the baby and you're not going to get me. And she tries to kill herself. She starts to cut her wrists open, but that makes him stop her. And that makes her able to find him.
Yeah, and once she has a hold of him, she can stab him with the pen and damage his suit. Which, by the way, the new design for the Invisible Man when he's not invisible is fucking creepy as shit. He's basically got this entire suit that's made of all these little cameras that are projecting these refracted light, and the cameras, when you see them when they're not refracting, look like little eyeballs all over him.
It's really creepy.
It's every inch of him.
And they also, the lenses on them make this very Alien or the Predator kind of clicking noise.
So when he's nearby, you can hear that noise, and it's this great hint that he's there.
It's really unsettling.
It reminded me a lot of the key ma 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 from Friday the 13th.
Just kind of here is your audience awareness of the character's presence.
There's a lot of really great, simple filmmaking techniques that Leigh Whannell that come right out of horror history playbook that I thought he utilized amazingly, like that little sound cue to let you in.
Well, but also what I loved about that scene was just watching her stab the fuck out of him with a pen. It was so satisfying.
When Elisabeth Moss finally gets one over on him, it is one of the most satisfying things in the world. I'm not going to spoil the ending of the movie, because the ending of the movie was so fucking just fuck yeah.
And that was my favorite scene in the movie.
And I don't want to spoil that for anyone that wants to go and see this movie and experience that feeling, because that feeling so satisfying. But I will say that shower scene does lead into my weird little nitpicks about the movie that don't actually weigh the movie down, but are things I noticed. She cuts her wrist, and she actually does it properly. She does it down the street. And then proceeds to engage in this huge, elaborate action scene with the Invisible Man that leads into a car chase at one point. And it's great. It's fantastic. It's thrilling. But the entire time I'm sitting there going, she should be bleeding out of that arm. She should be, fainting.
I can attribute that to, running on adrenaline.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, action movies love to pull that a lot, which is how the fuck is this person who should be have dropped.
I was willing to roll with it because I've rolled with worse injuries in movies, so I was willing to roll with it, but it was one of the things I noticed. The second thing I would like to say is that the brothers are completely different body types, so I wouldn't believe that either of them could fit in the same suit, but that's kind of like the Face-Off. Like, if you've ever seen the movie Face-Off.
That is like the Face-Off where it's like, but their builds are so different.
John Travolta and Nicolas Cage look nothing alike, so how are their faces... Just switching their faces aren't going to all of a sudden make Nicolas Cage 6'2". Like, do not think... You're thinking, if you're having that question about Face-Off, you're thinking too hard about it. So again, like, these are such small little nitpicks, and they don't really actually affect the movie, because I love the movie so much, but I would be remiss if I didn't bring them up, because they were things I thought of, so...
Didn't bother me.
Is there anything else? I don't want to spoil some of the things that happened to her friends. We already revealed that one of them lives.
The black guy doesn't die.
I don't want to spoil that, and we've already went over the two big twists. There are other little twists and turns, but those are the main ones. Those are the big ones.
They're good twists too. They're not Shyamalan twists. Even if one of them, I had theories, but I was never 100% on any of them.
Well, it does what a good like mystery does, even though this movie isn't like.
It's not a whodunit.
It's not an actual whodunit, but it does a great job of, like, answering a question and then leading into the next question. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, where can they find you?
I'm Lizzie Lemondrop on Twitter.
There you go. You can find her, Lizzie Lemondrop, on Twitter. Y'all know me. I'm the Horror Guru. You can find me at the Horror Guru on Twitter, on Twitch, on Facebook. Just look up the Horror Guru and Blood Splattered Cinema, and I'll be there. If you want to contribute to my channel more directly than just liking, subscribing, then be sure to check out my Patreon page. And if you do decide to go the Patreon route, know that even $1 a month can go a long way. And while you're here, after you've commented, after you've subscribed, make sure you ring that notification bell so that you're notified of my videos immediately upon their upload. And we're actually about to go have like a Cronenberg double feature of some kind. So we're gonna go watch some Cronenberg movies, and we'll catch you later with the next horror movie that the two of us also watch. There's probably going to be a couple more vlogs with Count Jackula as well this week, because he and I saw a couple movies together. So yeah, be sure to give my friend Lizzie all the love in the comment section. And
be nice to me.
Be sure to tell Count Jackula that he's gotten adorable.
I'm his competition.
And with that said, peace out, my fellow gorehounds, and I'll catch y'all later.